Breaking tonight, FBI and ICE have executed a high-level operation at a Texas residence as part of a widening federal investigation.
4:13 a.m. Houston, Texas. A mansion at the end of a private road, a tunnel buried 30 feet beneath the foundation, 50 children locked underground, 1.1 tons of narcotics sealed in industrial freight containers, and a man the entire community called a hero. His name was Abdi Karim Sheikh, Somali diplomat, philanthropist, community leader. For over a decade, families trusted him with their children, their donations, and their faith. He funded shelters. He organized campaigns for missing minors. He stood beside politicians, pastors, and parents, smiling for every camera. Behind that smile was an empire of darkness. If you want the full truth behind what federal agents found that morning, hit like so this story reaches more people. Houston is not just a city, it is a logistics nerve center. The Port of Houston processes over 247 million tons of cargo annually. Pipelines, highways, rail corridors, and maritime lanes converge here like arteries feeding a beating heart. For legitimate commerce, it is an engine. For criminal enterprise, it is an open door. And Abdi Karim Sheikh knew exactly how to use it. He arrived in Houston in 2011. Within 3 years, he had positioned himself as the primary liaison between Somali immigrant families and local government agencies. He registered 7 non-profit organizations. He opened 4 residential youth centers. He launched an educational outreach initiative that received $14.2 million in its first year alone. The community embraced him without hesitation. Families posted tributes on social media. Local news stations profiled his work. Online approval ratings for his programs exceeded 97%. He was invited to speak at city council meetings. He shook hands with congressional staffers. His face appeared on banners at charity galas attended by hundreds. No one questioned the man behind the mission, but federal analysts did. The first flag appeared in late 2021. A routine financial review of community housing grants revealed a pattern. 187 grants approved across 5 years. Not a single verified beneficiary at any listed address. Dormitories registered to house over 1,000 children showed zero occupancy during unannounced site visits. Empty beds, empty hallways, empty records. The second flag came from surveillance. Unmarked trucks arrived at the mansion between midnight and 3 a.m., then vanished before dawn. Private security rotated in 8-hour shifts. New cameras appeared on the perimeter walls every few months. The property operated like a military installation, not a home. Then a statewide audit exposed the financial spine of the operation. Investigators traced more than $298 million siphoned from child welfare and community development funds. The money never reached a single shelter. Instead, it flowed into construction logistics firms, industrial ventilation suppliers, excavation contractors, and structural reinforcement companies. Every dollar pointed underground. Comment exposed if you believe the public deserves to know what was built beneath that mansion. Deeper inside the financial records, the picture sharpened. A single contractor listed as a temporary housing refurbisher received $41.7 million. No furniture invoices existed. No beds. No linen. Warehouse manifests showed steel reinforcement beams, high-capacity air filtration units, and 1,400 cubic yards of industrial-grade concrete designed not for homes but for subterranean environments. Investigators cross-referenced construction timelines with public events. The results were chilling. Charity galas coincided with tunnel excavation milestones. Donation drives launched at the exact moments when construction expenditures peaked. Media appearances mapped directly onto transportation intervals logged in internal scheduling systems. Every public act of compassion was synchronized with a private act of concealment. This was not negligence. This was architecture. Among more than 1,100 minors listed in program files, at least 700 had no identifying documents. Medical checkups had been discontinued. Tracking records were blank. In dozens of cases, names had been erased from digital databases entirely. Those children existed in no system, belonged to no record, appeared on no screen. They had been made invisible. Transportation logs told the rest. Vehicles labeled as student transport followed identical routes daily, stopping only at a single private residence. Schools listed as destinations had no record of any student arrivals. The entire educational framework was fiction, paperwork designed to justify movement and nothing more. Federal analysts compiled everything into a single operational profile. The conclusion arrived like a hammer. This was not a charity. It was a human trafficking machine wearing a humanitarian mask. If this shocks you, hit like right now. What comes next is worse. At 4:47 a.m. on the morning of the raid, the Federal Operations Command issued its final authorization. 143 agents from the FBI and IC assembled across 3 staging points within a 4-mile radius of the target. Tactical breach teams checked weapons. Outer perimeter units confirmed positions. Communication channels locked to encrypted frequencies. No sirens, no lights, no warning. At 5:04 a.m., the convoy moved. Black SUVs rolled through empty residential streets. Agents wore full tactical gear, ballistic helmets, night vision optics, level 4 body armor. The air was humid and still. Houston had not yet woken. The city had no idea what was unfolding at its edge. At 5:07 a.m., the first team reached the front entrance. A battering ram struck the reinforced steel door. It held 90 seconds of resistance, an eternity in close-quarters operations. Motion sensors triggered alarms buried deep inside the structure. Exterior cameras rotated automatically toward the entry points. Then the shooting started. Armed guards, later identified as hired mercenaries with prior military backgrounds, moved into pre-assigned firing positions. Flash grenades detonated across lower-level corridors. Smoke flooded narrow passageways. Gunfire echoed through reinforced drywall. One IC officer was thrown backward by the force of an automated slamlock door. Another took fragments from a shattered overhead fixture. Orders were shouted, repeated, swallowed by noise. 11 minutes. That is how long the confrontation lasted. 6 armed guards were subdued, 2 injured, none killed. No agents lost their lives. The resistance was fierce, calculated, and anticipated. Whoever designed this facility had studied law enforcement breaching timelines and built countermeasures into the walls. Type yes if you believe these agents deserve recognition for what they walked into that morning. Once the perimeter was secured, the search began. Behind a fabricated interior wall panel, agents located a concealed bunker entrance. Heavy steel bolts locked into poured concrete, hydraulic hinges, electromagnetic seals. They forced it open. Inside, 30 feet below the surface, investigators found an underground chamber. 50 children were huddled together, silent, terrified, clinging to each other in darkness. They were restrained. They were guarded. Internal transfer documents found nearby indicated they were being prepared for movement toward coastal transport corridors within 48 hours. Medical teams rushed in. Blankets were distributed. Names were spoken softly. For the first time in months, perhaps years, someone told those children they were safe. A room designed to conceal became a place of rescue. But the discoveries did not end there. Agents moved along the tunnel walls and located sealed industrial freight containers. Inside, narcotics totaling more than 1.1 tons. Cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, compressed, vacuum sealed, chemically consistent with prior federal seizures linked to the CJNG cartel network. This was not street-level storage. This was distribution-scale inventory staged for interstate movement. Behind a separate armored hatch, a secondary cache. 129 firearms stored in steel crates, individually wrapped. Serial numbers filed clean, not displayed, not archived, preserved for operational deployment. Share this video so more communities understand what was hidden beneath a trusted man's home. In the hours that followed, federal analysts began dissecting the digital infrastructure recovered from 6 encrypted servers inside the mansion. What they found was not a collection of files. It was an operating system for a criminal empire. More than 318,000 internal records were extracted. Personnel logs, construction invoices, routing schedules, security rotations, transfer manifests spanning 62 months of uninterrupted activity. On one server alone, analysts discovered structural blueprints containing 41 separate access points mapped beneath multiple residential districts across Houston, San Antonio, and Galveston. Every tunnel corridor fed back into the same operational core. The mansion was not a hideout. It was a command node. Financial mapping exposed another layer. Charitable foundations registered under community development designations had quietly moved $92.4 million into construction firms specializing in subterranean reinforcement and industrial ventilation. Contracts labeled as youth housing expansion projects were tied to material shipments identified at excavation sites. Every receipt told the same story. Nothing was built above ground. 3 primary transport corridors were identified. One directed south through Mexico via concealed freight lanes. One routed west toward California's coastal industrial shipping zones. And one extended east into maritime cargo facilities connected to international waters. The most disturbing corridor led to unregistered private medical institutions in China, facilities listed as youth rehabilitation centers that appeared on no recognized clinical registry. Operational projections indicated at least 150 children had been routed toward those destinations over 5 years. not a school, not a shelter. Off-record facilities beyond the reach of American law. Revenue estimates associated with those transfers reached into the billions. Encrypted communications confirmed sustained contact between Schick and members of the CJNG network previously monitored for narcotics trafficking and forced labor operations. The connection was not incidental. Transport schedules for drug shipments mirrored documented transfer cycles for children listed as temporary relocation subjects. Two parallel pipeline, one human, one chemical, same infrastructure. If you believe justice matters, comment justice below. Invoices disguised as community aid imports corresponded to chemical packaging shipments. Maritime logs classified restricted cargo as medical supply donations. Even the language was engineered. Every word chosen to sound benevolent. Every document crafted to pass inspection. The system did not hide from the world. It hid inside the world's sympathy. Among the recovered children, medical teams compiled condition reports that silenced the room. Over 70% showed signs of malnutrition, untreated illness, or prolonged psychological distress. Many had no records, no histories, no trace of how they entered the system. For some, there were no identities at all. Dormitory lists contained gaps, rows of missing names, entries overwritten or deleted entirely from databases. Each missing name represented a child who might never be identified. A life moved through corridors designed to leave no trace. They had not been lost by accident. They had been erased by design. Share this before it disappears from your feed. More people need to see this. In the weeks following the raid, the scope of federal charges expanded daily. Abdi Karim Schick was indicted on 47 counts, including human trafficking, narcotics distribution, money laundering, fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy to transport minors across international borders. 6 co-conspirators were arrested across 3 states. 4 additional warrants were issued for individuals believed to have fled to Mexico and Somalia. Asset seizures totaled more than $137 million. 17 properties linked to the network were frozen. Bank accounts in Houston, Dallas, Galveston, and 2 offshore jurisdictions in the Cayman Islands were locked. 3 charitable foundations were dissolved. Their combined operating budget had exceeded $48 million annually, funding nothing but concealment. Federal prosecutors described the case in 12 words: an industrial-scale trafficking architecture disguised as humanitarian infrastructure. The community response was seismic. Families who had entrusted their children to his programs faced a reckoning no parent should endure. Neighborhoods that had celebrated his name confronted a betrayal rooted not in carelessness, but in faith. They had believed because he gave them every reason to believe. Trust inside institutions weakened overnight. Questions spread through city council meetings, church halls, and community forums. How long had this operated? Who else knew? What oversight had failed? And the hardest question of all, how many children were still unaccounted for? Investigators acknowledged that the full scope may take years to determine. Cross-border verification attempts met resistance. Many overseas entities linked to the network existed only on paper. Staff could not be located. Facilities could not be inspected. Jurisdictional barriers transformed accountability into silence. Hit subscribe so you do not miss what comes next in this investigation. For the agents who descended into that underground chamber, the memory that endured was not the gunfire, not the alarms, not the evidence stacked in crates. It was the silence afterward. The silence of 50 children who had forgotten what safety felt like. The silence of a system that had operated for years beneath the comfort of trust. The silence that settles when a truth too devastating to accept becomes impossible to deny. What was uncovered that morning in Houston was not a single crime. It was a mirror held up to the spaces where oversight fails, where credibility becomes currency, and where the language of compassion is rewritten into the language of profit. The mansion was only the surface. Beneath it stood a network designed to operate quietly, profit endlessly, and vanish the vulnerable without a trace. A network that was never meant to be found. And yet, at 5:07 on that humid Texas morning, it was. 50 children survive. 50 lives pulled from corridors built for disappearance. Their rescue did not close the case. It opened it, because what remains beyond American borders, what still operates through distance and jurisdictional silence, has not been dismantled. This story is not over. The tunnels beneath Houston have been sealed, but the routes that extend outward, through Mexico, through California, through maritime channels and unregistered facilities overseas, those routes still exist. If you believe this story matters, hit like, comment truth below so we know you watched until the end. Subscribe so you are here when the next chapter breaks. And share this with someone who needs to see what power can hide when no one is watching. The silence has been broken, but the fight to keep it broken has only just begun.